Hey guys, I thought I'd just make a quick video about NATO straps. I know obviously they're a really popular option for a lot of watch collectors, especially people who like a sporty or more military look. And there's a lot of brands out there, so you're probably wondering if you're interested in buying a NATO strap or you're looking for a certain style, which brands are worth it, which brands are better than others, what should you buy, especially depending on why you're buying the strap and what you're going to use it for. As you can see, I have 3 straps in front of me. One from N.A.T.O Watch Club, which is my oldest Nato strap, so I've had a lot longer. Some of the wear will be related to its age, just as a heads up. And 2 from BluShark Straps. These are 2 of the most popular companies. You can get much cheaper Nato straps out there. Personally, I think spending $12 to $17 is really not that ridiculous. I'd rather spend 15 bucks and get a nice strap that's going to last me a while and be comfortable to wear than spend 7 and get a piece of crap. It's really not that much money, especially if you have watches that cost even just $100 and up from there. Why buy something super cheap that's not going to be as nice? Clearly, you had the money for the watch, buy a decent strap for it. Anyway, before I get started, wristwatch check. I'm wearing, let's focus, I'm wearing my little Seiko 5. It's the SNKL 41 on a Colorab Venezia red strap. I really don't know that you can get much classier for, 80 bucks. Mine's pretty scratched up and beat up, of course. Be shinier and a little cleaner looking 2 years ago. I did a video on budget watch collecting where I included this, where I talked a little bit about it, but I just, in browsing the internet, found that it seems to actually be made in Japan, at least according to Creation Watches, which I found surprising. I didn't know that any of the Seiko 5s still were, but that means you're getting even more perceived value for your $85. Just a great, great watch. But anyway, let's go into the straps. These are all straps. All 3 of these are ones I'm currently wearing on watches in my rotation. So I'm not going to go into the packaging differences, how they come to you, at least not visually. What I will say is N.A.T.O Watch Club sends pretty simply, in an envelope like you'd expect. From BluShark, at least in my experience, I ordered 3 straps. I don't know if it changes depending on how many you order, but in my experience, you get them in a nice branded cardboard box. Which at first seemed like a little overkill for packaging, and I don't like to waste a lot of money on packaging or worry too much about throwing out stuff and recycling stuff. But actually, it's recyclable, so it's not a big deal, and it is nice to have sort of an unboxing experience, even when you're just buying a strap or 2. So kudos to them for that. Anyway, first let's look at the N.A.T.O Watch Club strap. You can't really tell this too easily on camera, but this strap is much, much softer than the BluShark straps. It's like a fabric feel rather than like a nylon seat belt texture. Maybe you can tell if if I hold it over a finger like this. It's very pliable and sort of just curves with the weight of the hardware, which is very lightweight. Whereas even my 18mm BluShark strap is much stiffer and straighter. It doesn't really, sorry, police car flying down the street apparently. But yeah, so there's a difference in the material itself. One is softer and more pliable, more fabric-like, and the other is more of a true tough, like nylon seatbelt material, or the straps you have on a backpack, something like that. There's also differences in the hardware. As far as I know, all N.A.T.O Watch Club straps come with the same standard hardware. These sort of rounded keepers, which, flop back and forth the way that you're used to in a lot of NATO straps. And then this thin, unsigned buckle with kind of, sorry, but the focusing is so bad, with kind of a wobbly, I don't know what you actually call this, a buckle pen, but it's a little flimsy. It's much better on the Natos than on the Perlons, but it's still a little flimsy. Whereas on the BluShark straps you have the squared off keepers that stay in place, like you see on the higher end stuff, like Omega's branded Natos, things like that. You can get either brushed or polished, which I think is actually a really appealing option. I bought this particular strap originally for my Vostok, which is a full polished case, and I liked the option of choosing polished keepers so it would match. The buckle itself is signed. It's thicker and sturdier metal than the Wrist Candy Watch Club, and the pin is much stiffer as well. It's worth noting this is the BluShark original NATO. This is the cheapest option they have. They have an extra thick nylon option, which is kind of the middle of their range, and they also have the Alpha Shark luxury straps. I don't know. I don't really see the point in an expensive, like a truly expensive NATO strap. I don't have any luxury watches, and for my collection, this is more than enough. Let's see if we compare them together. Both options, these are different widths, by the way. The Wrist Candy is 20 millimeters, the BluShark is 18 millimeters, but both are stitched fairly well. The stitching, I think, is a little tighter on the BluShark strap, but again, I've also had it half the time or less that I've owned the Wrist Candy Watch Club strap, and the Wrist Candy strap is on my sort of everyday most worn watch as well. The holes are tighter as well on the BluShark strap, and because of the difference in material, because it's a little tougher and less fabric-like, they don't fray nearly as much. I'll say the Wrist Candy Watch Club strap is great. It's high quality. It doesn't fray too much, but I have tiny wrists, and so it's cinched pretty tight most of the time, and I wear it a lot. And you can see, sorry if you can get close, that second hole is starting to fray. You can really see it when I'm wearing the watch, and I'm pretty sure that in time it's going to break, and it'll be too big for me because I won't be able to use the specific hole that's for my size. It's not expensive. It's easy enough to replace, but that's worth noting, especially if you're the kind of person using a NATO because you're actually diving, or you're actually doing military work. You're not going to want it to break and all of a sudden be flopping around on your wrist. Whereas I don't have that problem at all with the BluShark strap. And even though it is a newer strap, I don't see it fraying just based on the toughness of the material. While we're at it, let me show you what the brushed hardware looks like from BluShark. You still get that nice signed shark on the buckle, but this time it's brushed and not polished. And again, this is the normal hardware. There's a luxury hardware option, which is even more square. It's like a chunkier buckle. I personally like the thin, understated look. This to me is what a NATO is supposed to look like. I don't really want a NATO with that sort of Panerai style buckle. It looks weird to me. Let's see, let me throw these on the watches that I usually wear them on, and just show you what they look like. Them all on because I don't really feel like taking the time. But that's what you're looking at. There you go. Sloppy, but you get the idea. And finally, the Bond NATO with the brushed hardware, also from BluShark, goes on my Orient Mako USA. This is the first iteration before the hacking and hand winding movement was introduced, which I think is a great look. I like this on the NATO a lot better than I did in the bracelet, which I was surprised by at first. So what's my verdict? What should you buy? It comes down to what you're using it for, what kind of watch and what kind of purpose. I like both straps. Some people want to hate on one brand versus another, whatever, that's fine. I like both, but to me they're for different watches for different purposes. The BluShark straps are much tougher. They're not as comfortable to me because they're not as pliable. They take a while to break in, but even once they do, they're just stiffer, heavier, tougher material, which makes them a little less comfortable, I think. However, I would trust them much, much more in an actual military, diving, swimming, camping kind of setting. I think for task, they are the superior strap. However, if you're like me and really a N.A.T.O more than anything else, you know, sure, it's a summer thing. You can wash it. You're not sweating in your leather straps, but really it's a fashion statement, right? And you have it on sort of understated dress watches as like a preppy dress down look, or on your vintage pieces. In that case, I would definitely buy another wrist candy N.A.T.O. It's more comfortable, it's more pliable, so you don't get, like, for instance, it curves fully around my wrist like this, whereas there's always gap in the BluShark right here because it's stiffer and doesn't fold as much. It's just more comfortable, and I think if you're the kind of person who likes to throw something like the SARB on a N.A.T.O, you know, put on a blazer, throw this on in the summer, go out to brunch in the city with your girlfriend, with your, I just think it's a more comfortable, more appropriate wrist strap for that. I think a BluShark strap on the SARB would look a little ridiculous, to be honest, because it's just too stiff and chunky and task oriented. Because if you're wearing a N.A.T.O on a dress watch, you're not actually wearing it for task. It's not what it's for. And if you're making a fashion statement, you should wear something that's a little more comfortable and, to me, a little bit more fashionable. So at the end of the day, I will continue to purchase from both companies, and I'd recommend that you do as well. And also things about, like, the hardware, to me, is sort of a selling point. That's why I originally tried the BluShark straps, because I could choose. I do prefer the squared off hardware, and I like being able to choose between polished and brushed. But at the end of the day, I still much prefer the wrist candy N.A.T.O on my SARB. That's my take. I hope that was useful to you guys. They're not that different in price, and BluShark has some great deals on. There's a discount for your first order. There's a buy two, get one free offer, which I took advantage of, which is amazing. So yeah, I would think about what you're using it for and then decide what to buy that way. They're both great brands. They're both nice straps. I don't think you'll be disappointed either way. If you guys have your own opinions about the brands, share them below. If there are other N.A.T.O companies that you think I should really check out, let me know. Share your favorite strap producers down below, specifically for N.A.T.O and military style straps in this case. Thanks so much.